Well, hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday. I think it's Tuesday, or it could be Belgium for those of you old enough to remember that bad movie. Peter Greenberg here with our great Facebook Global Travel Update for the 21st of December, 2021. I hope you're getting ready for the holidays, as so many people are, and doing so intelligently with common sense in the midst of another COVID variant, which we're going to talk about. Of course, if you have any questions, of course, email them to me, peter@petergreenberg.com, or put them right on our board tonight, and I will answer them as they come in. Let's first talk about what's going on in the brave new world of COVID. As you know, countries are starting to shut down again, some with full lockdowns, some with partial lockdowns, or with partial barriers. Israel shut down, Netherlands shut down, Austria shut down, Germany might be shutting down, and France, interestingly enough, shutting down for anybody traveling from the UK. They're selectively shutting down. Now, I'm coming to you tonight from a place that has not shut down. In fact, I'm getting ready to come back to the United States. I'm coming to you from Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. What am I doing over here? Not escaping COVID. The vaccination levels here are not impressive. I'm here working, finishing my PBS special called The Royal Tour with the President of Tanzania. And for those of you who like to keep track of these things, it's our 21st year of doing the Royal Tours. And this particular one will premiere in April of next year, April 21st to be exact. So check your local PBS stations for that. It will also be available on Amazon Prime and Apple TV Plus. But we'll have much more on that as we get closer to the air date. More importantly, what are you going to be doing in the wake of COVID-19, the latest variants? Are you canceling your trips? Well, I'm going to give you a qualified yes. You're canceling your trips, but you're not stopping travel. All the indicators are, and all the numbers are coming in, that people are canceling trips to places they're worried about and then rebooking other places that they're not. They do not want to be denied their opportunity to travel, and I hope that you're doing it with a great deal of common sense as well and playing by the rules. But now let's look at the numbers, and I want to give you a preface here. I'm not a doctor, I don't play one on TV or on Facebook, but the indicators are, and the anecdotal evidence and some scientific evidence are all in alignment for the moment, in that the vaccinations that you've taken, the 1 or 2 doses, and the booster have essentially taken death and hospitalization off the table for an overwhelming majority of you. So if you take a look at the spike in the cases that are substantial in the United States, as well as overseas, 99% of those cases are for people who are unvaccinated. We're back to that again. So now, am I wearing a mask when I'm over here? Yes, except to talk to you. Am I behaving, social distancing, washing my hands early and often, and doing sanitizer? You bet. I'm taking a calculated risk. I'm knowingly taking a calculated risk, and the vaccine allows me to do that. That doesn't mean I'm being cavalier. It doesn't mean I'm not concerned. You bet I'm concerned. There have been breakthrough cases, but in every case that I know of, many of my friends have had it, where they were double vaccinated, had a booster, and still had a breakthrough case. Guess what? They didn't go to the hospital. They didn't have to be intubated. They were not on a ventilator, and they had mild discomfort, and they're back at work or they're back at home. So I'm not saying it's a walk in the park. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but I am telling you that we have gotten to the point, at least the smarter travelers, based on their own medical condition, of course, where we embrace the notion that this is like the flu if you've been vaccinated. It's a virus that may not be eradicated, but it is one that can possibly be managed. And I'm of that thinking. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing here. And I've been traveling literally since I was able to get a vaccine. And we'll be traveling throughout the rest of this year and into 2022 and 2023. So what's really going to be happening? A lot of stuff. Airlines are short-staffed again. United Airlines parked 100 of their planes, literally just parked them. No pilots. American Airlines admitted at Senate testimony earlier in the week, guess what? They need to bring back 18,000 workers. Ouch. And they're short pilots. One interesting development that happened in that hearing. Actually, I take that back. 2. The first one was an airline executive who I greatly respect. I think he runs a great airline. Did something I didn't expect him to do, and there's some irony attached to that. His name is Gary Kelly. He's the CEO of Southwest, who'll be retiring from that job, but not from the airline, in about a month and a half. Gary Kelly shows up at the Senate testimony, talking about airlines, not wearing a mask. And he makes the claim in Senate testimony that he doesn't understand the need for masks on planes when the air circulation systems and the recirculation air systems on planes is so efficient that it's a better environment than you have at home or anywhere else. Now, he does have a point about their circulation systems and the removal of bacterias and particulates. He's right, but it sent the wrong message, including to his own flight attendants who revolted because they put them in another bad position. Remember, Southwest is the airline where flight attendants are getting punched out, broken teeth, broken bones for people who did not want to wear a mask. So it's a system that's still going to be resolved. Remember, the mask mandate is still in effect until March of next year, and it could be extended again based on the vaccination levels in America. So stay tuned on that. What do the airlines really want to do? What do they really want to do? They want a federal mandate that says you cannot make an airline reservation unless you show proof of vaccination. But no one airline wants to be the first off the block on that one because they're worried about losing almost immediate market share. So they want the feds to do it. Well, guess what? The feds aren't going to do it right now because their own vaccination mandate was challenged in the courts. It was just on another appeal ruled in favor of the Biden administration, but that's being appealed to the Supreme Court. So until that gets resolved, there are not going to be any more vaccination mandates issued by the federal government. So that's sort of like on hold. But the bottom line is, guess what? Airlines are flying at 96% occupancy. That's right. The load factors are 96% throughout the end of this year. Airfares are reflecting that. Hotel rates are reflecting that. Try to get a hotel room in the Caribbean right now. Minimum hotel prices are like $1,200 a night with a 7-day minimum stay requirement. And that's for the moderately priced hotels. A friend of mine just went down to the Turks and Caicos, and for a week, his hotel rate was $53,000. Now, there's a lot of money out there. A lot of money has been lying around. People can't wait to get out, and they're not afraid to spend it. But the point is, if you're looking for a deal right now between now and January 4th, you're not going to find it. You're not going to find it. After January 4th, ta-da, fares plummet. Which brings to another subject. I've talked about it over the last couple of weeks, but it's crucial that I talk about it now. Do you have unredeemed frequent flyer miles hanging around that you haven't touched? If you do, when I finish this time with you today, you need to go online to your account, look up to 330 days in advance, and book something. Now, am I panicking for no reason? I am not. Let's run some numbers here. During the pandemic, the airlines were desperately needing to raise capital. They figured, okay, what's worth more in the airline than anything else that we can actually maybe mortgage and raise a lot of money? It was their frequent flyer programs. American, Delta, and United basically mortgaged these programs to between $6 and $10 billion each. American actually valued their frequent flyer program at $34 billion. What's the translation there? Their frequent flyer programs were worth more than the airlines themselves. So they generated all that capital. They also generated all that debt. So what are they doing? They're making it harder to redeem miles, and they've always made it hard to earn them, but they're making it even harder. So they're going to change the rules after the first of the year. Mark my words, they're going to start devaluing those miles, which they can do. There's no federal regulation that will allow them not to do it, right? They're protected by the Federal Deregulation Act of 1978. They can change the rules, right? It says so, by the way, when you join the program. You didn't look at it. I did. I'm telling you, they can change the rules. So the number of miles you're going to need to go from A to B is going up. The number of seats available that you want to redeem for that flight from A to B is going down. Do the math. Don't wait. Now, I'm not calling this a run on the bank because your frequent flyer miles are not in a bank. They're not earning interest. They're losing interest. And if you don't trust the airlines as airlines, why would you trust them as a bank? The longer you hold on to those miles, the less valuable they are. It is as simple as that. That held true, by the way, last year and the year before and the year before that, but no more true than right now. So follow my advice. And by the way, you don't have to go where all your friends are going. Paris, Italy, Spain. All you failed art history majors, it's okay. I forgive you. Get on Atlas. You have strategic partnerships that every airline has with foreign carriers. Find a place that none of your friends want to go to. It's okay. You can live without them for 2 weeks and go have a great time. Obviously, practice common sense, follow the protocols and the rules, and you'll be better off. In fact, you'll be greatly better off. All right, so that's the story there. Now, we got a story about something else. And I love this story. We've talked about it before, but never an example as horrific as this one. When I call the airlines, because I like to make reservations with a human being, and I'm put on hold, depending on the airline, some airlines will say, hey, if you just punch in your number, we'll call you back in 56 minutes. And it turns out to be 3 hours and 47 minutes. Well, consider and the most obscene idea of this is that while you're listening to these recorded announcements, they say, at the conclusion of this call, please stay on the line for another 2 minutes so you can give us a survey of our service. I can tell you the survey right now. You suck. You shouldn't be on hold for 3 hours and 47 minutes. But that's nothing compared to a gentleman in Australia who tried to get through to Qantas to book for himself and his company $350,000 worth of tickets. Pretty big deal, wouldn't you say? He was put on hold. I'm not making this up. I've seen it. Get ready. 71 hours. You know what he did in the 72nd hour? He canceled every flight on Qantas, moved that $350,000 over to United. We get to vote with our wallets, boys and girls. When somebody puts you on hold for 71 hours, it's a clear message they don't want you. It's true, right? You know it. Okay. Now, speaking of COVID, let's talk about what happened on Royal Caribbean earlier this week with more than 50 cases on one of their ships coming back into Miami. Was that an outbreak? No. It was 50 individual cases. They were isolated. There was contact tracing. Keep in mind, this goes back to my story about vaccinations. It was a requirement that every passenger, every crew member, and every officer on that ship had to be vaccinated or show proof of it before you could even get on the ship. So these folks were already vaccinated, and there were 50 cases. We're seeing a huge amount of cases because of the new variant, because it's highly transmissible, but it's less potent. That's the good news. The vaccines that we have are handling it. They're managing it. So that was not an outbreak. They did their contact tracing. They played by the rules. They were already vaccinated. Life goes on. And the ship is sailing again with a full complement of passengers, knowing full well what the rules are. You have to wear your masks on the ship unless you're eating or you're in your own cabin. That's it. So that will come back. Okay, mark my words on that. So that was the Royal Caribbean COVID story this week. Now, let's go to some of your questions, and we'll talk about where you can and can't go. Okay. Patty says, call the airlines early or late in the day. I call them at 2 in.the morning. I guess that qualifies as both early and late in the day. Okay, Patrick says, greetings from Aspen. Right now in Aspen, you can get an estimate for a Diet Coke, right, Patrick? It's expensive these days. Hello from Clark, New Jersey. Just had to cancel my trip to England in January. Too expensive to get COVID tests. It is not too expensive to get COVID tests. What's wrong with you guys? I can tell you that public health services in every major U.S. city are administering them for free. That's where I go, to the New York City Department of Health on 138th Street. Bing, bada, boom. Zero cost. Also, there's a place I go to on Long Island that if you just show your insurance card, it's free as well. You just make an appointment. So somebody telling me it's too expensive to get the test, somebody's not planning ahead or planning well, or both. Look, I got stuck once. You only have to get stuck once not to know not to do this. When I was flying through Lisbon to get to where? Ireland on TAP. I wasn't entering Portugal. I was just transiting the airport. Didn't matter. Portugal has a rule. You had to show a PCR test in order to even transit the airport. I didn't have one, right? Because I was fully vaccinated going to Ireland. So I got stuck at the San Francisco airport having to get one within 3 hours of my flight departure time. Thank goodness I got to the airport early for a change. $250 for something I get free from the New York City Department of Health. So plan ahead, and don't tell me you had to cancel because it was too expensive to get the test. Okay. I'm going through here. Nick says hi from Patmos. Wishes me a good Christmas. Hello, Nick. Enjoyed the time we spent with each other this summer. Uh, all right. Katrina Lemley, Merry Christmas from Alabama, right back at you. Robin says, season's greetings from Williamsburg. Okay. Uh, okay. Bernice is saying hi from Tanzania. All right. By the way, the show that we're doing is a continuation of my series that we've been doing for 21 years called the Royal Tour, and which where I go and get a sitting head of state, president, premier, or king, to give me 7 days of their schedule devoted to me, as self-serving as that sounds. But there's a reason for that, because for the next 7 days, they become my personal tour guide to the country with no editorial control or right of review. Imagine two people on a road trip throughout the entire country, one of whom just happens to run the country, and that's our show. We've done it with everybody from the King of Jordan to the Prime Minister of New Zealand, the President of Mexico, the Prime Minister of Jamaica, the Prime Minister of Poland, the President of Rwanda, and now, among others, we are doing the President of Tanzania, a remarkable story of a remarkable woman and her rise to power. It's too crazy a story to tell you now. I'm not giving it away, but I will tell you on April 21st, 2022, you can watch it on your local PBS station. Okay, Lorena says, when you book a ticket on Delta for the entire flight, why don't you get miles for the segment on the flight they code share with? Well, you do. Look, the code share is crazy. It's confusing, it's misleading. But the one thing I will tell you is if I'm flying on a Delta flight that's operated by KLM and I give them my Delta number, I get mileage in all those segments. Conversely, if I'm a KLM member and I give the Delta folks my mileage number on a flight operated by Delta, the same thing happens. I triple check that. You do get mileage. Redeeming, it's another problem, which we just talked about. Okay, here we go. Zach is saying, Merry Christmas from Houston, Texas. I used to live in Houston, Zach, so right back at you. Good evening from Saad. Robert is saying, happy holidays from Orlando, Florida. All right. And Mike Ruggiero, my buddy. Thank you, Mike. Another person who knows and loves Tanzania. Nice to talk to you. Julie Anderson Atkins, headed to Jamaica next week with family all vaccinated. Do you recommend we go or cancel? We are boosted also. Okay. I only have one question to you. Of course, I'm not a doctor, right? Do you have any pre-existing medical conditions that you're worried about, or that your doctor is worried about, or that your doctor told you not to go? If the answer is no, then guess what? You're going to Jamaica as long as you play by the rules and follow some basic common sense. Social distancing is still in play. I'm not telling you to go hang out at a bar and listen to reggae music when you're only 6 inches away from somebody else. Not cool, right? Social distancing. Hey, Jamaica is surrounded by water. Get out there. There's social distancing baked into the entire experience. So the answer is obviously qualified by what your physician says. I'm telling you should go. Okay. Rula says, thank you for your input. Any thoughts about JetBlue? Could you be any more general? Come back to me with a specific question. Okay. Jew is saying hi from Japan. Hey, and Saad saying he's from Saudi Arabia. Saad from Saudi Arabia. Who knew? Okay. Mr. Raymond Bixon is speaking Hawaiian to me now. But and it's not hello, it's not aloha or mahalo or mahalo. Excuse me. I blew that one. Raymond, I'll see you soon. Okay. Mike wants to know, what about cruise ships? We're taking a riverboat cruise in Germany next October. You're going to be fine by next October. All right. Betty wants to know, greetings from Punta Gorda, Florida, where he just had a tornado here. The leaves look like snowflakes. Well, I hope you did okay. I hope there was no damage. Mary Devlin McGrath, they should all get together and agree to require the vaccines to book a ticket at the same time. I agree with you. By the way, going to Canada on a Canadian airline, you cannot get on the airline unless you show proof of vaccination. We should have that. Now, I'm not politicizing this. I actually think, and if you want to argue with me on this one, our door is wide open, but I'm ready to duke it out with you. I actually believe that if you intentionally stay unvaccinated, you're threatening my life. Not just your life, my life. So what do I get for self-defense? I'm not going to kill you. You'll take care of that yourself if you get the disease. But seriously, folks, this is not political. It's pragmatic. Get the vaccine. You're hurting other people. Okay. Pat Fine is saying New Jersey. Hi, Pat. Magdalena saying what's important in life is to be happy, enjoying life to the fullest. Uh, I agree. Uh, yeah, that includes a vaccination right now. Uh, okay, Jerry says this has been and will continue to be completed and confusing. Yeah, you're right. It's going to change every day. You talk about the rules. Uh, Ellen saying, a great phone experience rebooking United flight this past Sunday, start to finish, 15 minutes. Wow, Ellen, almost a record. And by the way, isn't it great when you get one of these reservation agents on the phone? Because they've been beaten up too because they're having staff issues. I mean, they had to come to work and they have to deal with guys like us who are not happy to begin with most of the time because of the way we've been treated before we ever got on the phone, right? But when you get a res agent on the phone from an airline and they're nice to you, they're understanding, they're compassionate, they're creative, they figure a solution to your problem, I want to marry them. Oh yeah, I'm already married, but you get the point. So a big shout out to the travel agents and to the res agents at the airlines who are understaffed and overworked. I mean, I salute you guys. I wouldn't want to have your job right now because there's a reason why there's a 71-hour load and hold at Qantas. There's one guy there named Vern. I mean, not pretty. Okay. All right, here we go. Colleen says that just now booked 2 round trip tickets on United from San Francisco to Frankfurt for 60,000 miles for next May. That's the point. By next May, there'll be 180,000 miles. Good going, Colleen. Nicely done. Mike says I just flew on 737 for Southwest, a max flight. And man, does that plane suck. Don't hold back, Mike. No power ports, no very small lavatories. Okay. Can I discuss the bathrooms on the 737 MAX? You'd have to be a member of the cast of Cirque du Soleil to get in the goddamn door. You'd have to be literally, a complete acrobatic nut to be able to even get out of the bathroom. But I'm going to challenge everybody watching this now. The next time you fly, we're not talking about the plane being unsafe. They fixed their flight management problems, thank God. But let's talk about it being comfortable. Not. The next time you fly on a 737 MAX, I don't care how much you weigh, how tall you are, how thin you are, how fat you are. I mean, doesn't matter. The next time you fly on a 737 MAX, go in the lavatory, squeeze in, close the door, and try to wash both of your hands at the same time in the sink. You cannot do it. That's how tiny it is. Ridiculous. And that's an indication, right? That's my sink test of how bad those lavatories are. Okay. Linda says there were some cases on the Queen Mary 2 upon arrival in New York. Should I still keep my reservation for February? Absolutely, with one asterisk. Make sure that you work out an arrangement with Cunard in writing as to what their policy is. If they have to cancel the cruise for COVID, then do you get your money back or do they give you some credit for future use, which was not what you had in mind? Get it in writing now. And if you get it in writing now that you're entitled to a full refund if they cancel, then don't cancel the cruise. Because by February, you might be in much better shape. All right. Joan says hi from gorgeous California. Tink is saying hello from Kenya, not far away from where I am right now. In the Masai Mara. I love it. Okay. Yes, you're absolutely right. She's saying we need to get vaccinated and wear a mask and things will end. I couldn't agree more. Rula says, would I visit Miami these days? Yeah, I would. All right. Scott says, can I tag along on one of your trips? Scott, I appreciate the thought, but I need to put it in perspective. And I'm not crying victim here. Everybody wants my job until I tell them what my schedule is. I've been in Tanzania for 48 hours. That's it. It took 48 hours to get here. It's going to take about 26 to go back. And I wasn't sitting at the pool. So anytime you want to trade places with me, go ahead. Good luck. You won't last 3 weeks. You know why? Because I'm not on vacation. I'm actually working. I'm doing it right now. Sitting in a hotel room in Dar es Salaam and talking to you. And I'm happy to do it, right? So love to have you tag along. I can tell you how much it's going to cost. Get it? I'm not being mean-spirited, just being practical. All right. Uh, Steven says, I have 320,000 points on Chase Sapphire Reserve. What is your recommendation as to where I could transfer them to? What airlines? Should I book a flight and can I change it later? Two different questions here. Yes, you should book a flight. And at 320,000 miles, you'll probably get 2 first-class tickets somewhere. And so take a significant other or a family member. Find out which airlines are participating in the Chase Sapphire program. And are these airlines that you regularly fly and trust? Right? Because the other problem is if it's not a big airline, they're a member of the Star Team or the Sky Team or the One World Alliance, they may not have enough inventory to even redeem one frequent flyer ticket, even in the best of times. But the answer to your first question is yes, redeem those miles. Okay. Titus, it's been very challenging to find places open to get PCR test. Well, now you're really qualifying this to get a PCR test on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Now, let me see if I get this right. You are required in most cases going out of the country to have a negative, mostly a PCR test within 72 hours of your flight overseas. Not the one coming back, that's 24, but the one going over is 72. So who says you have to do it on New Year's Eve? How about on December 30th, right? It's all possible. Look, I'm telling you, I get it through the New York City Department of Health. I get no special preference. We go online and line up and register just like everybody else. Okay. Please give an update on current passport renewal times and anything you can share about how the proposed online renewal for passports will hopefully improve things. Well, an online renewal for passports, by the way, which is part of an order given by President Biden, is now starting to kick in a limited way. It'll probably be up and running big time a year from now. The good news is that the backlog of passports has been reduced from about 1.9 million to about 200,000, which means that most of these passport agency folks are back in their physical offices processing passports. Having said that, now is the time to either renew or apply because the crush hasn't started yet for 2022. It will start starting on February, whatever President's Day weekend is, when people are realizing, gee, I'm traveling and either my passport's about to expire, did expire, or I don't have a passport to begin with. That's when the rush happens. So take the time to do it now. Ask for an expedited passport and always ask for the 58-pager one, not the 24-pager one. Won't cost you a dime more. But remember, if you have a 24-pager and you run out of pages, even though the passport's valid for 10 years, you're going to have to go get a new passport and start all over again. That 58-pager gives you a little more breathing time in that 10-year period, so you're not constantly having to renew your passport. All right. Lorena says, I use my frequent flyer miles number booking from Lansing to Nairobi. Okay. I get the miles up to Amsterdam, but Amsterdam and Nairobi, no miles from the airlines. I've called Delta to ask about this and they won't budge. That's right. Different inventory on different flights. Here's what I'd do if I were you. Go to a local newsstand, wherever you live, that actually carries British newspapers and get them to give you the Saturday edition of the Times, the Independent, the Observer, the Telegraph, and look in their travel sections. You will see ads for flights you will never see online in the US or advertised in the US from secondary and tertiary airports in London that'll get you to Kenya. So redeem your miles for London flights. Then what I would do, this gets crazy, don't fly from London because you get hit with a big service charge. Take the tunnel and the train, go to Paris, spend a day or two there and enjoy it, and then fly from Paris to Nairobi on the cheap flights you're going to find in the British papers. So you're buying 2 round-trip tickets. One you're actually redeeming for miles from your city in the United States to London and back, and one or actually what you should do is from your city in the United States to London, returning from Paris, train trip to Paris, and then a round-trip Paris-Nairobi Paris ticket on a cheap ticket, and you're in. Okay? Follow me? Okay. Nancy's saying happy holidays from Minneapolis. Okay. Karen Jones says, I run a safari company in Los Angeles. So glad you're broadcasting from Africa and can't wait for your PBS special. It's going to be fun. We're going to be doing things you've never seen. Pretty crazy stuff. But that you can do. That's the whole point of the show. Okay. All right. Paulina says, hi. Patty says, Ryan R., best telephone experience. Oh, Ryan R., we got a name at UAL. Okay. Send a letter. Give him a shout out. right? They deserve your thanks. Okay. Uh, all right. Karen saying hi. Paulina's saying hi. Geraldine saying hi from Chicago. Solomon is saying hello. How are you? I'm fine. Uh, all right. We're having some fun here with Karen and with Paulina. Sue is saying, when do you recommend to go on an African safari? Gee, well, depends on what you want to see. For me, you want to time it for the Great Migration. That's when the animals are going from Tanzania into Kenya. It changes every year. This year was like mid to late September. Next year will probably be earlier in September. It's something that if you haven't seen it, it's hard to describe. It's mind blowing. All right, so check that out. Okay. Oh my goodness. Petra, is it Petronelli? Petronelli is saying, we're listening from Arusha. I was there yesterday with the Messiah. Well, thank you for listening. Cliff is saying, hello from Toledo in Spain. Okay. Karen says, I don't understand something. Travelers are supposed to show vaccination cards before boarding a cruise. How come there's an outbreak of COVID on cruise lines like Royal Caribbean? Not an outbreak. They're breakthrough cases from a very transmissible variant in which the symptoms mostly weren't even felt. Most people were asymptomatic. They were isolated. They were taken, the contact tracing was done, and all is well in the world. By the way, you know how many passengers are on that cruise? You want to guess? I'll tell you what, let's do passengers and crew on that cruise. 8,000, and they had 48 cases. I'm rolling the dice. Okay. Tanya says, here's the challenge. Departing flight leaves on January 3rd and need to get the PCR test 72 hours prior. Okay. New York City Department, I don't even know where you live, Tanya, but your local Department of Health will be open on New Year's Eve day. So find out what time your flight is. So for example, I had to take a test this morning because I'm leaving in about 4 hours after now to come back to the United States because we have that new 24-hour rule. So if my flight leaves at 1 o'clock in the morning Tanzania time, I needed to get a test anytime after 2 o'clock in the morning this morning, right? So back time it, and you know, within 72 hours of January 3rd, I think that's what you're saying, you can do it. Okay. Okay, connecting from Tanzania on African guides and DFC. I don't know what that means, but hello, Charles. Julie's saying, one more question. Can the COVID test to Jamaica be a rapid test? I don't know. We can find that out for you. I do know that on the way back, the U.S. does accept the rapid antigen test in that 24-hour window we talked about. Okay. Geraldine wants to know, what would be a good fare to Paris planning September 2022? When to buy the tickets and for how long, and a place to stay? Okay, look. The airline algorithms that they use to project demand and set prices are still not working very well. Seriously. But if you're going after, let's say, September 15th of 2022, those fares should be either, there's no middle ground now, they're either through the roof or dirt cheap. Because the airlines haven't figured out what to price them at. Because they couldn't price how many people went this past September in order to establish a pattern. It didn't exist. So the original playbooks are out, right? So go online to research, not to book, and come back to me and tell me what you find. Then we'll put it in some perspective and tell you if it makes any sense. All right, let's go to now displaying our photo of the week. Let's pop it up. It's coming. And there it is. Anybody want to tell me where that is? Okay, Roger George sent that in. And he took it from the last tour he took in 2019 before the pandemic. He was on a Viking cruise ship and going from Barcelona to Bergen, so we can narrow it down to where this was taken. He was docked at dusk in the port of, here it comes, Malaga. Hey, lighting is everything. Take a look at that light. It's great. So Roger, thanks for sharing that. And if you've got a photo that you think is worthy of a photo of the week, just send it in to me, peter@petergreenberg.com. And if we like it, it gets up there with Roger's. By the way, little housekeeping note, speaking of peter@petergreenberg.com, if I can't answer your question today, send it in. We'll either do it online or we'll do it on our radio show that airs this Saturday all across the United States, and we stream it live as well. So if you can't find a station in your area, just go to our website with the imaginative name, petergreenberg.com, and hit the radio icon at about 5 minutes after 10 East Coast time, Saturday mornings, and you'll hear the show, the whole show, and nothing but the show. All right. Now, got some questions that you guys also sent in. Do I have any updates on the Grand Egyptian Museum? They keep changing it, Melissa. I don't know when they're going to open it, but I'm going to promise you, sometime in the next 2 weeks, I'm going to get a definitive answer from the Minister of Tourism himself, if I can get him on the phone. We don't even know when he answers his phone. That's what's going on right now. But I know it's going to be soon. All right. Here, Julie says, I'm going to Switzerland and Germany in June. What's my prediction for whether she'll be able to go? We're all triple vaxxed. Every country right now is trying to save their summer season for next year by figuring out protocols now. So my guess is you're going. All right. All right. Now, Linda says, and we talked about resort fees before. Marriott is trying a new method of getting additional fees while showing their rates artificially low. I'd love to hear your opinion on this along with what I can do. Do me a favor, Linda, email me. This is a perfect example. Peter@petergreenberg.com. Show me an example of how Marriott is displaying their fees, or maybe not displaying prominently or at all their so-called resort fees. Because remember, Marriott just did a settlement with the Pennsylvania State Attorney General in which they agreed to unwrap everything and display the resort fees on the exact same page that they're quoting you the rate for your room. So send me that information and we'll talk about it next week. Okay, Brad says, Peter, if you cancel your flight or miss your flight and the airline sells the seat to another person, then do they have to refund the price of the ticket, even if it's non-refundable? No. If you miss the flight, why wouldn't they be able to sell that seat? If I was running the airline, I'd do the exact same thing. The real key here is, are you on a connecting flight? Did you miss the first one or did you miss the second one? If you were on their first flight and you missed the second connection because of their problem, the good news is, at least in theory, they're going to put you on their next available flight. Here's the bad news. Their next available flight's running on 100% occupancy, and you may be spending the night at that intermediate airport. So what are a lot of people doing these days? I'm not making this up. It's called trip stacking. So let's say I've got, an hour layover in Chicago on a flight from New York to, let's say, Boston. That's a ridiculous reading. Forget I said that. New York to LA or New York to San Francisco. And an hour connection, in my book, is not sufficient. Give yourself at least 90 minutes, okay? So now you've done that. But let's say you have the sneaking suspicion that it's not weather-related, it's equipment-related, that you may miss your connection in Chicago. So go out and buy a full fare ticket on the next flight after yours that was connecting in Chicago. If you miss the first flight, you have a guaranteed seat on the second one because you bought a separate ticket. And you'll get a credit for the one you missed that went out earlier. And if you did miss your flight, you now have a seat. Either way, it works. If you have the money to do it, a lot of people are doing that as a hedge. So there you have it. Okay. Sue says, how do you fight a reserve or reverse resort fees? It's called failure to disclose. If they don't disclose the resort fee when you check in or when you make your reservation, and the only time you find out about it is when you get your bill on checkout as an email sometimes, hey, failure to disclose is a right to dispute the charge, right? That's number one. We start with that. That's the strongest leg you have to stand on. Now, let's say they did disclose it. Well, does that mean it's non-negotiable when you checked in? Does it mean it's non-negotiable when you made your reservation? Did you have a conversation with another human being to work this out? To define what actually is covered by that resort fee, which in most cases is garbage? Everything in a hotel is negotiable, but it starts with a conversation. No whining online if you haven't had the conversation first. All right? All right. Is December 23rd the worst day to travel this year? I have a flight that day from LAX to JFK. Eric, it's not. The worst day to fly this year was the Sunday after Thanksgiving. And that day is past. So you're off the hook. All right. And the reason why December 23rd is not the busiest day is simply because people usually get a head start on Christmas holidays and they leave between 4 and 10 days early. So there's not one big crunch day. I mean, some days are more, busy than others, but there's no one big crunch day. Now, because Christmas falls on what? A Saturday. Now we have a problem because if you're coming back on the 26th or you're coming back on January 2nd, that's going to be crunch days. All right. Okay, if many parts, this is an interesting question. If many parts of Europe are locking down again due to the new variant, shouldn't the US be locking down too? Well, the answer is the whole world should be locking down and wearing masks, but we're not. I don't think the economic situation would allow us to do that kind of a lockdown right now, especially during the holidays. But my guess is get ready for increased testing regimes and requirements for anybody traveling within the US or to the US, even if they've tested negative in that 24-hour window before getting here. There may be additional tests required to be able to stay here. So mark that space. Guys, I got stuff to do in Dar es Salaam tonight, otherwise known as getting out to the airport early enough to catch my flight so I get to get home for the holidays. But I will be with you next week. We'll post the day and the time. Please have a happy holiday. Please travel safely. Much more importantly than that, or just equally as important, please travel wisely and be smart and enjoy your days off. I will see you next week, and hopefully we'll all be here to talk about it, healthy, happy, and smarter in the process. Bye, guys.